Would you believe me if I told you that your biggest, most important breakthrough won't come after years of hard work, but in a moment of pure, unadulterated, mindless bliss? What if the powerful gatekeepers and taskmasters of the world have been trying to hide for thousands of years the secret that true talent doesn't answer to discipline, but to God? They've built a whole world out of blood, sweat, and tears based on the lie that you have to suffer in order to be great. They want you to believe this. But you beautiful, perfect mistake, show that their whole system is a house of cards, and you just happen to be in the storm that will bring it all down. Pay close attention, because what you did wasn't just impossible. It was a promise come true, and they are scared for the world they thought they ran. You are a beautiful contradiction and a holy disaster in their carefully coded system. There are whispers going around in their holy halls, war rooms, and boardrooms about an impossible task you pulled off. According to their rules, it should have taken years of strict discipline, decades of specialized training, or maybe even a lifetime of preparation and sacrifice as a monk. They had models, formulas, and examples from the past that all said it couldn't be done without paying the high price they expect from everyone who wants to get into the halls of legends. Not even close to having the purpose. You did it on a normal Tuesday afternoon, while half focused on something else, like a bag of chips in one hand and Netflix playing in the background. Now, because of that one moment of easy, pure being, their whole world, their carefully built reality, is falling apart like a weak sand castle caught in a hurricane's strong winds. Why are their roots breaking and their pillars going to dust? Because you were brave enough to be yourself without asking them to. Let me paint a full, shocking picture for you so you can understand how big the earthquake you caused is. Some of their most decorated special forces troops were doing push-ups until their bones hurt and their souls screamed at 4 a.m. while you were just exploring. The smartest chess grandmasters in the world were staying up all night remembering complicated endgame strategies until their eyes hurt and their thoughts were fuzzy. But you were just trying something new out of interest. Silicon Valley stars, who were seen as the architects of our future, were working 80-hour weeks to perfect a single algorithm, giving up their youth, health, and relationships. Meanwhile, you were pushing buttons and pulling levers and jokingly asking, "I wonder what this does?" Where you were playing around, which was a holy place, you did not just find something new. By chance, you broke every atom of their world. They had spent millions, if not billions, of dollars on research and development centers and programs for top athletes. Their strategies, systems, and strict rules had been improved over many generations of group thought. That is, the knowledge of ages. Harvard MBAs with markers and a strong belief in their own importance covered acres of whiteboards in climate-controlled war rooms with complicated flowcharts, grids that no one could understand, and jargon that they bought from expensive advisors. Navy SEALs who were living examples of human endurance wrote best-selling books that became the holy texts of a whole generation. These books preached the gospel of grit, the sacrament of sacrifice, and the unshakable faith of discipline. You were probably still in your pajamas and hadn't even brushed your teeth yet that day. For 5 wonderful minutes, you were just following a thread of pure, wild interest. And in that holy moment of pure being, you opened the door to a reality they couldn't even dream of reaching in 1,000 lives of hard work. The truth, the one that's making them sweat like crazy at night, is that what you did wasn't luck. This is the secret that hurts their pride and tears them apart. It wasn't a chance event. It wasn't a statistical accident that their charts and odds could finally explain away and brush off. No, what you did was a lot worse for them. With your easy ease, you showed their whole structure for what it really is, a huge area of quicksand that looked like solid ground. They really want you to believe their story about effort. It's what gives them their power. They want you to be completely sure that the only way to become great is to shed a lot of tears, record them carefully, and measure them. If they want you to believe their story, their big story, they need you to believe that to be great, you have to go through terrible things and make sacrifices. Whole businesses worth trillions of dollars around the world are based on this one false belief. Self-help gurus, motivational speakers, Life coaches and academic institutions are all priests in this church. They feed the false belief that if you follow the right 10-step program, do the right things, work harder, and get so tired that you can't stand it, you will one day reach the mastery they hold out like a carrot on a stick. But you, with just a yawn and a stretch, ruined their whole model without even trying. You didn't improve your morning routine by taking ice baths and writing in a journal. You didn't carefully make vision boards or use habit trackers compulsively. You weren't awake at 5 a.m. to think about your plans. Your food wasn't planned with the accuracy of a researcher. You weren't obsessed with efficiency hacks or trying to reach a meaningless standard of success set by someone else. You were playing in a pure and beautiful way. It was in that moment of pure, childlike wonder that you found something that even their most loyal and devoted followers couldn't reach, even after decades of unwavering, soul-crushing dedication. Think about this: 20 years. That's the bare minimum of time that Special Operations Forces train to get the kind of razor-sharp accuracy, supernatural sense, and lethally effective presence that you showed while going about your day like you were asleep. These are men and women who freely crawl through miles and miles of freezing mud, jump out of perfectly good airplanes and land in unfriendly territory, and survive brutal interrogation scenarios that were carefully planned by experts to break people's minds. They learn how to use 17 different types of weapons until those weapons move like they are an extension of their bodies. As a plan, they break themselves down piece by bloody piece and then put themselves back together again, shaping themselves into living, breathing war robots. What about you? It's likely that you couldn't even do 10 real push-ups. But that is exactly what scares them so much about you. You didn't walk the holy, bloody road they used. It hurt and tired them, but you didn't pay them what they owed. You didn't bleed in their holy rites or give up your life force on the training ground's shrines. They made guards out of holy people, and you didn't bow down to them or wait quietly in line with all the other desperate people trying to get a piece of authority. What they would call an ignorant, worthless, and completely unprepared hand. You reached out and grabbed lightning from the sky like it was just a ripe apple hanging from a low branch. That's how you took it, like it had always been yours. That one, unplanned, instinctual move shattered the myths on which they had built their lives, jobs, and complete sense of self-worth. Watch them scramble now. Watch as they choke on their own weak excuses and desperately try to piece together complicated stories to avoid facing the shocking, blazing truth. They'll stutter. It must be beginner's luck, and their voices will crack from the weight of their own doubt. A statistical anomaly, an outlier. They'll say, even though their hands are shaking because they are scared, they will stand in the ruins of their crumbling beliefs and say, this doesn't change anything, as the walls of their world fall down around them. They will never be able to escape the truth, the question that will keep them awake at night. If you can do what you did, if anyone can become famous while half asleep, bored, and not caring about the result at all, then what was all their pain for? For what reason did they make that sacrifice? Take a look. Right now, somewhere, a young martial artist has been working hard in a school for 10 years, breaking boards and earning belts. He is completely convinced that the only way to become a master is through endless, painful practice and strict discipline. Because he looked up to his sensei like a god, he told him that it would take 30 years of dedicated practice to fully understand a certain move that was holy and hidden. Idle thoughts made you do it without thinking about it. You did it without the 30 years of hard work, the never-ending drills, or the religious discipline that people worship as a god. To be honest, you did it without thinking about it. It was like you remembered it like it was written in your bones. And that one easy moment has changed everything they thought they knew about how to get better. Another story is about a brilliant engineer who gave up all of her friends, weekends, and happiness to become fluent in 17 different computer languages. She did this in the desperate hope that one day she would be able to solve the kinds of impossible problems that would make her famous and protect her reputation. You, on the other hand, solve the problem she couldn't by randomly hitting keys and going with your gut until something just clicked. Whole businesses worth billions of dollars were thrown into full chaos by that one action. which was not based on logic but on gut feelings. They are having emergency talks about you right now as you read this. Their best experts and most experienced researchers are on conference calls that are being patched across countries. They are all trying to figure out what just happened. They are trying very hard to figure out how to keep the truth from getting out into the world. As they say, we need to study this. Their words are filled with fear and awe. It's said, we need to understand the anomaly. But how can they study something they don't even understand? It seems impossible for them to study something that doesn't fit into their rigid structure. You're not just a piece of data that they can put on a graph. No one else could have ripped their precious graph in half like you did. Why did you do what you did? The military calls it force multiplication. That one thing that can have the biggest, worst effect with the least amount of resources is the holy goal of strategy. They spend years and billions of dollars teaching their smartest fighters how to do it by teaching them how to think strategically, handle resources well, and find key points of leverage. And you force multiplied their whole reality without meaning to. You weren't making plans. You weren't attempting to trick them or follow their lead. You were just not interested. And in that state of pure, raw boredom, you showed them something they will never be able to forget. Their whole game, which they thought was holy, complicated, and unbeatable, had no point at all. Let's talk about requirements, which is their holy cow. Those holy stepping stones that they say everyone has to climb, every single one of them. You can't do advanced calculus without first learning basic math. You can't do brain surgery without going to medical school for 10 years. You can't write a grand symphony without first learning music theory. But you did all of those things at the same time, which is impossible. You did quantum brain surgery with a butter knife while making up a tune in your head. The patient didn't just live, either. They changed into a whole new species. That's what's making them crazy. If this message hits you deep down and you feel that holy spark of effortless talent rising inside you, take a moment to confirm this link right now. Join a group of souls around the world who are remembering their power and changing the rules of reality by subscribing to God Connection. If you join us, you're saying that you'd rather play than hurt and trust your gut than follow directions. The holy order of their world was broken by you. You skipped their carefully thought-out introduction and went straight to the final boss fight. You didn't even know it was a boss fight, though. What were you thinking? You thought you were just practicing and having fun. And not only did you win, you won perfectly with a perfect score, which is something the game's creators never even thought was possible. This idea of slow, steady growth is at the heart of everything we do in the world. From preschool to middle school to high school to college to graduate school and back again. Then, maybe, just maybe, you could make one small but important contribution to your field if you're smart, skilled, and lucky. That's the way. That is the only way they know how to get there, and they only allow it. But in a single, amazing moment, you broke that fantasy for good. Not only did you cross their path, you teleported from the starting line to a finish line they didn't know existed in a world they couldn't see. These people are now looking at your technique through their very best telescopes, breaking down every move you make in an effort to figure out what you did differently. You can't understand the heart of jazz by just counting the notes on a page, though. There was no method at all that you were using. You were moving in sync with something much stronger and more dangerous to their order, your instincts, which were not filtered in any way. What their systems are carefully made to do is beat people out of their spirit and replace it with proper methods, accepted processes, and rules that are carefully policed. Now comes their worst nightmare, the one that makes sure they will become obsolete in the end. It's spread because of you. Your words have given a lot of people the beautiful but dangerous idea that maybe, just maybe, everything they were taught about their boundaries is false. If they could do the impossible without any of their training or permission, what else have I been told is impossible? What else might be possible for me if I just let myself try, play, and be? This is what everyone who hears your story thinks to themselves. You have spread a holy virus through the minds of many people, and it is growing faster than any of their control systems can stop. That's the real danger you pose to them. This is why they are scared. It's not that you broke their rules, because you showed everyone that the rules were never real in the first place. Someone reading this right now is understanding they don't need that pricey license they've been saving for years. Someone else is quickly realizing that the so-called expert who told them their dream would take 10 years to come true may have only been protecting their own weak position and small platform. Somewhere else, someone is looking at the impossible peak they were told they had to climb with great care and starting to wonder if there might be a secret door at the base that goes straight to the top. It's not like you broke a record. In fact, you broke the very idea of what a record is. You didn't just beat them. By pulling back the curtain, you showed everyone that the game was actually a very complex trick. You didn't just win, you changed what success even looks like, which changed what it means to achieve something. And what's the worst and most beautiful thing about it all? You didn't even have to try. You did it by accident. That is the cosmic joke that is keeping their experts up at night, shaking their roots, and causing their powers to crumble. When experts get together in their groups or digital backrooms, they talk and huddle together, desperately trying to stay relevant. They say, this doesn't take away from the value of proper training. But their words don't mean anything. They say things like, there's no substitute for experience. But their words sound like monks chanting over a dead god, while someone in the back row does miracles without having read their liturgy. This so-called accident needs to be broken down for a moment, because calling it an accident is their last and only defense. If what you did was planned, if you really meant to do it, then their whole outlook falls apart in one night. But if it was just an accident, they can say it didn't happen. They don't keep track of accidents. Accidents don't change the truth. Accidents don't happen often. They just do. That is the story they are holding on to. The thin, breaking thread of telling a story that keeps their fragile order from falling apart totally. For the most part, they don't understand your accident. It was the most honest, clean, and real thing they've seen in their field in decades, if not ever. You didn't bring their baggage or preconceived notions to the problem, and you didn't feel the weight of what you were supposed to do. You didn't know what wasn't possible, so you didn't limit yourself to what they thought was possible. You were putting shapes and colors together like a child playing with building blocks. You did it out of pure gut, joy, and curiosity. And while you were in that holy state of play, you built a church so beautiful that the master builders of that time swore it could never exist. This is the beautiful paradox that is messing up their logic, the divine conflict that is making their whole system glitch and sputter like a machine that is too busy to work properly. It's been their job for decades to teach people how to think outside the box, but they do it from inside a much bigger, unseen box that they never say exists. They make programs, curriculums, classes, and courses that encourage people to come up with new ideas, but only within clear, preset limits. They say they want creativity, but only if it stays simple and easy to manage. They say they love rebels, but only the ones who can still be controlled, branded, and made money from. Only the people who draw inside the lines and never dare to smudge the page are praised as mavericks. Then you got there. Raw, not filtered. Great. Not only did you cross their lines, you didn't even notice that they were there. You didn't see a page, a box, or any rules. There was only a blank surface full of possibilities. The special operations fighter spends decades breaking down and carefully putting themselves back together until they can do everything without thinking about it. Their harsh training gets rid of any hesitancy and gives them reactions that are so well honed that every twitch is planned to have the most impact. But even though their sense is very strong and could kill, it is one that they have trained. It was made like a fine weapon, buffed to a mirror shine by doing it over and over again. It will always be limited by the system that made it. It was a different feeling in you. It was wild and uncontrolled, and they hadn't trained it in any way. They didn't practice it. It wasn't planned. It wasn't made by a group of people. It was living. Of course, that's why it worked. While they spent billions of dollars making a better mousetrap that worked better, you weren't even interested in their trap. You were the mouse that saw that it had wings, looked at the walls that were closing in, and chose to fly. There is, without a doubt, a whole industry, a world machine, built around the idea of knowledge. Universities say that expensive degrees are the only way to get real information. Boards of certification are making natural knowledge into badges that can be laminated. These licensing groups act as gatekeepers, choosing who can and can't use what they have learned. Professional groups are holding on to reputation like it's a scarce resource. Every year, trillions of dollars pass through these systems. They are all based on the idea that people should be able to buy, control, and share information. That truth has to be carefully measured out so that only people who kneel at the right gates and pay the right tolls can get to the so-called holy secrets. Then you showed up and broke it all open. You didn't climb up their strong walls. You didn't work hard for years to get their stamps of approval. You didn't carefully climb their stairs, one dangerous step at a time. You just bent down, picked up a bobby pin that was lying in the dirt, and with a fun twist of your wrist, you were able to get into the vault that they said couldn't be reached. You did the exact thing that their whole system is meant to stop without any clearance, permission, or passwords. People who run this system and are its top priests are now in a full-blown fear in boardrooms all over the world. People are taking off their ties and suits. A lot of work is being done editing PowerPoint slideshows. Top executives are shaking as they whisper into their phones. If someone can do this without our training, without our certification, and without our blessing, then what are we selling? The answer hits them like a tsunami. They have nothing to sell, nothing that looks like everything else. They're selling the false idea that you need it. They're selling the power to do things. They're trying to sell dependence. And the careless, easygoing way you did it just showed that none of it was ever needed. The respected professor worked hard for 40 years to become the foremost expert, focusing their whole lives on solving a single, difficult puzzle. Their job, who they are, and the value of their life are all tied to this one goal. Imagine how devastated they would have been if you solved the problem they had been chasing for 50 years while you were putting something else off. Imagine a powerful advisor who charges $5,000 an hour for strategic insights that you found for free in a single thought. Think of the long line of coaches, gurus, teachers, and advisors who are all on top of the world because everyone agrees that their gatekeeping is important. Then look at how you showed that their whole pyramid was built on sand with one unplanned move. This is the part that makes everything even worse for them. You didn't mean to hurt anything. You weren't planning to do harm. It wasn't your job to find fraud. Destruction needs to be planned. It needs plans for how to fall. To bring down powers, you have to consciously want to do so. That wasn't what you had. It wasn't like you were sharpening their guns or shooting at their thrones. You were just being yourself, following your natural interest, imagining what might be possible, and letting your divine sense take you to places where their rigid logic would never go. And that's the reason it worked. For the most part, uprisings don't start with war conferences and manifestos. They sometimes start in the deep silence of a mind that is interested. It's not always a statement of war that starts them. Sometimes it's a laugh, a moment of pure play, or a moment of unbridled wonder. Revolutions that change the world often happen out of the blue, and they're not led by soldiers with flags and guns. They're led by regular people like you. These people don't want to change the world, but they can't help but tell the truth in a way that is so strong and clear that the world has to change around them. That's the thing that scares them the most. Not because you meant to break their system, but because you did it so easily. Even though you didn't mean to rebel, it was clear from the very fact that you existed that you did. You showed that all of their gates were made up, their guards were weak, and all of their rules were not necessary. There was no need for them to let you fly. You didn't. Dreamers with big plans and planners with perfect plans don't always bring about the most important changes. They don't come from teachers giving lessons or generals giving orders. They come from someone who doesn't know they can't change anything. That's the strange thing. That is the holy bug in their system. When you walked into their world without being educated or ready by their standards, you changed reality without their approval. We are all now living in a different world, a reality that will never be the same again because of what you did without meaning to. The old guard is a mess. They are running to contain something that can't be contained and are desperately trying to fix the hole you made in their order. To keep up their fantasy, they are having late-night strategy meetings, changing their policies, rushing around in their think tanks, and writing up new stories. It's way too late now, though. The damage is beautifully beyond repair. There's no more magic in the bottle. It's now public knowledge. While the ruler stands naked in the street, everyone can see him. The worst thing for them is that you didn't reveal him with a protest or a statement. That's the last nail in their coffin. It was like you were a child pointing out the obvious while you were grabbing for a snack. It wasn't a revolt. There was no harm. When it comes to a crooked system, innocence is much more dangerous than revolt because it doesn't have to explain itself. It is what it is. They'll try to take you in. They always do. The system's first reaction is to eat things it can't control. From their ivory towers, they will give you titles, special degrees, shiny awards, and high-level jobs. They will ask you to teach them what you did so they can package it up, sell it, and act like they owned it the whole time. They will also invite you into their holy places and clean up your name. They will beg you to show other people how you did it. But how do you teach someone to have an accident? How do you make chaos work? How do you put something back into institutions that it destroyed? It dies when you try to teach it something. When you try to write it down, you destroy what made it strong in the first place. It can't be copied, not because it's hard to do, but because it was never meant to be a product. It was a beautiful moment of getting together. Some people, the more scared ones, will go the other way. They are going to dig. They will look into it. They will dig deep into your past to find proof that you stole, that you studied in secret, that your feelings weren't pure, and that you weren't as honest as you seemed. They will talk about plots. They'll say, they must have had help in plain sight. They will come up with long explanations because if they can't explain you, they won't be able to explain why everyone else should keep going down their long, hard, and successful road. It's important for them that you are not real because you are live proof that their walls were never needed. The magic is no longer working, though. The curtain has been pulled back. Myths have fallen apart. Anyone who thought that pain was the price they had to pay to be great now has a seed of divine doubt in them. Every organization that used its complicated rituals to defend its survival is now on the spot and has to explain how you beat them without any of their rituals. From the bottom of their hearts, every guard at the gates knows that you didn't get through. It seemed like the walls were always just made up when you showed up on the other side. Mystics, teachers, and seekers spend their whole lives looking for what you found, effortlessly, casually, and without planning to. Zen masters work for decades to reach even one moment of this state. The holy art of effortless effort, or Wu Wei, is what Taoist thinkers call it. It is the paradox of doing without doing. This is what modern psychologists call the flow state, and they try to explain it with plots and charts. But those are only words, crude nets thrown into an ocean that has no end that they will never map. It came out in you, without any ritual, method, or language, of course. They never seemed to be able to find what you lived. You didn't do anything. You did well without trying hard. You got to the top without climbing at all. And this is why this will always bother them. The secret that the hardcore tryhards will never figure out. They are too focused on trying, working, and getting better at what they're doing to ever see the deep beauty in being flawed. They are so focused on the end goal that they can't see how important the path is. They worship skill and forget what it's for. They are stuck on doing it right and never find the magic of doing something wrong, but in the right way. And in their blind, rigid dedication to work, they miss the one thing you found by accident. That real freedom and talent live outside of their rules. Why? Because this is the secret they can never own, copy, or make again. You are having fun. That's it. That's the whole story. Not showing off, not proving, and not following. Having fun. And you can't fake play. You can't use play as a lesson plan. You can't make happiness a business. You can't make desire better. There is no way to make wonder work. When play turns into work, it's no longer play. When lightning is caught in a bottle, it stops being lightning. When an accident is practiced, it is no longer a mistake. Because of this, they will never be able to do what you did. Because what you brought into the world was never a plan. It was a second, just being together for a moment. And you can never make times like that happen again. That's the thing that scares them the most. Since they couldn't make, teach, or control what you did, then they never had the right to sell you power in the first place. It was always yours to claim. That's why they're not just scared. Concerned, but not only. They are scared to death. If people can be successful through play instead of hard work, if they can become masters through boredom instead of blood and sweat, and if someone can become famous by accident, then what happens to everything they have built their lives on? What exactly have they been selling all these years, with their best-selling books, pricey workshops, and impressive degrees? What do people buy with their cash, time, hope, and youth? Why did people go through so much pain if success was always just outside the door of pain? They are more shaken by that one question than by any planned revolt could ever be. This program, God Connection, is there to make this truth louder. We're here to tell you that the best thing about you is your link to God. If this message has touched you deeply and you feel called to help with this waking quest, please think about joining us as a partner. A button that says Super Thanks is below this movie. Thank you for your gift of $10 or any amount that moves you. It helps us get this truth to souls around the world who are stuck in needless pain. Giving money isn't just giving. It's an investment in a new way of thinking and a statement that play, joy, and insight are the real ways to become brilliant. With your help, we can keep making content that breaks down old myths and brings out the divine in everyone. Your accident did not stay in one place. It spread out like a stone being thrown into a still, quiet lake. However, those waves are no longer waves. Their words have turned into waves, and those waves have turned into tsunamis that are destroying every coast of their kingdom. The most dangerous thing for them is that this wave doesn't hit their government labs or top-level training sites. Many people feel it in their garages, homes, busy coffee shops, and quiet park seats. You can see it going up in places they don't watch or manage. Everyone is getting back into the game. Not work hard, not follow the rules, and not cross things off a list. Have fun. They have the guts to look at impossible problems with the same childish wonder you did, with casual interest. In their basements, kids use used parts to make tools that change businesses. Artists who never went to art school are making art in their homes that shuts down galleries and breaks down reviewers. Ideas written on napkins in coffee shops are growing into answers that big companies could never have imagined. Every day, someone steps into their own greatness by mistake, and the idea of planned pain falls apart a little more. As more people around the world wake up, the careful structures, holy orders, and never-ending step-by-step ladders are all sagging like old bones. They were made to make it look like they were necessary, to make people think that to be great, you had to buy it, earn it, and keep it up. But the trick is now falling apart. When someone sees you skip through the whole maze or sees someone cross the finish line without ever playing their game, they start to wonder why they were running in circles in the first place. Of course, some will fail. Not every person who plays will find magic. That's not the point, though. The important thing is that they can finally try without being held back by the fear of failing. When they make something, they don't worry too much about how it will turn out. They are going back into the raw, creative force that existed before the world told them what was possible and what was impossible. And that shift alone is enough to unravel entire businesses built on fear and power. Meanwhile, the experts, the leaders, are breaking apart. The smart ones are stepping down from their pedestals, dropping their armor, and quietly saying that perhaps they never knew as much as they thought. They are finding humility, becoming students again, daring to play again. They're learning that their skill may have been nothing more than a cage dressed up as a throne. But the frightened ones, the dinosaurs, are doubling down. They are raising their walls higher. They're making their licenses more complicated, more expensive, more unreachable. They are tightening the gates, adding more locks, stacking more guards, building hurdles so complex that no accident could possibly slip through. But it is too late. Too late for walls, too late for gates, too late for guards. Because once people see that the walls were fake, they cannot unsee it. You have shown the world something no authority ever wanted revealed. The door was always open. In the quiet corners of the world, a truth is growing faster than they can control it. Extraordinary was never something to be won. It was something to be remembered. And now, people are remembering. The ruler has no clothes. The game was never real. The pain was never the toll. The door is wide open, and the crowd is beginning to walk through. You have created a future they never wanted, a future where accidents carry more weight than 1,000 carefully designed roadmaps, where play wields more power than endless hours of practice, and where boredom, once dismissed as laziness, is revealed to be the sacred spark of the most creative breakthroughs. This is the change you have started, not through armies, not through manifestos, but through events too pure to be controlled. The institutions that once claimed control over information are now faced with an easy choice: adapt or die. There is no third choice. The smartest among them are already shifting, taking down the rigid walls they once worshipped, carving out holy spaces for chaos, for unpolished creation, for the mistakes that lead to divine change. They are learning to value questions more than answers, to honor the spark more than the plan. But the dinosaurs will choose destruction. They will hold to their frameworks with white-knuckled desperation, claiming the old ways are unchanging truths, even as the ground splits beneath their feet. They will fade into nothingness, not because anyone toppled them, but because they chose stillness in a world that now only respects divine, fluid motion. And as they crumble, 1,000 new paths will grow in their shadows, paths of joy, of wonder, of accidents that lead to miracles. Dear Father, I pray for the growth of trust in every soul hearing this. Help us to accept our divine connection, even when physical proof is missing. Let us believe in your constant presence within us, knowing that our intuition is your word. We understand that your plans for us are of success and not harm, to give us a future filled with grace and effortless joy. Thank you, gracious and timeless Father, for always listening to the words of our hearts. I offer up this prayer to you in love and thanks. Yes, thank you for joining us on this journey at God Connection. If this video connected with your spirit, please like this video, share it with those who need to hear this freeing message, and be sure to subscribe to the channel for more truths that will set you free. Leave a comment below about your own journey with insight and play. Every contact helps this word reach more souls who are ready to awaken. Don't stop here. Watch our next video for powerful revelations about the signs that show you are a chosen one, meant to change the world. Thank you for staying with us until the end. Keep shining brightly, and accept your divine fate with courage and joy. We'll see you in the next reveal. Blessings to all you beautiful, divine souls.